October is National Bullying Prevention Month, and you've heard me talk a lot about a few stats, right? I love stats because they give you a bigger scope of what the problem really looks like. So, according to the National Center of Education Statistics, there's been a rise in cyberbullying nationwide, with 3 times as many girls reporting being harassed online or by texting messages more than boys normally do. There's a lot going on in regards to bullying, but there's not enough on the legal aspect. Now, today, refreshingly, I go to the news and New York has done something to combat that, right? So Governor Hochul signs an online safety package legislation, which is pretty much just what it means is that he is funding or establishing a task force to explore the effects of cyberbullying in New York State, because they want to see, the measures and find out how they can address it. So one of the things that this task force is going to do is address the impact of cyberbullying. They want to determine the prevalence, and how bad it is of cyberbullying. They want to make recommendations on how to prevent it. And they want to also identify the ways in which the state can be a resource in helping victims of bullying or cyberbullying, to include children, even outside of the school, or even when it happens outside of the school setting, which is really rare because most times schools tend to say, this didn't happen at home, at school, therefore you have to deal with it at home. Or they might say, well, that happened at home, we will not deal with it here at school. However, in reality, the majority of children who are cyberbullied know who the bully is, and usually it's somebody that they know from school. So it makes no sense to tell a child or a parent, we're not going to deal with it because it didn't happen at school, because, especially when they know each other from school or from a school event. So that legislation that passed in New York, it also expands the definition of coercion to include the production and distribution of intimate images. And notice the wording, intimate images. So when looking into these bills, you have to be specific about the words that they use and how they define it, to make sure that the law will be applied correctly. And that's not your problem to worry about, but it is something for you to notice, because if it comes to, a legal case, then your attorney needs to know, and you need to know, how is this word being used and does it apply to your situation? So the great thing is that it is going to hold people accountable, people who are, pressuring others to send nude photos or distributing the intimate images, and using them to threaten the victim. So the issue here is that, there's so much about bullying that we don't know, or at least that the majority of the population doesn't know, and we need to create more awareness. So the great thing that this legislation is going to do is that it's going to help uncover more about cyberbullying, and also how things like sextortion, which is deeply disturbing, impacts not just the individuals but society, right? Because we see that bullying of all sorts, whether it's cyberbullying, physical, emotional, financial, sexual, it impacts our entire society. It's not just the person who was victimized. Let me give you some examples. Britney Spears, she was financially bullied because she was withheld from her own paychecks, and she could not make decisions on how she could spend her money, what contracts she could accept. All sorts of stuff. So that's one way. And unfortunately, the law helped that work against her. And this is why we need to update laws, right? And you might be saying, well, that's not my job. I'm just a parent, or I'm just an individual. Well, you have the power of your voice. And one of the things that you can do is speak up against the things that you're seeing, so that these legislators understand how prevalent it is and how much you care. Because when you start caring, they start caring, because they know that if they don't listen to you, of course, you're not going to vote them in for the next seat, right? So the other things that I want to share, because I don't want to be all legal about this, I just want to share those news today, is that, studies show that bullying has been rising because there's no regulation, there's no online police, right? You have seen what happens when you report cyberbullying online. The social media sites or the webmasters do not do anything immediately to stop it. And they claim that it is too overwhelming and it's too much for them to handle. According to stopbullying.gov, just over 70% of staff members at schools have admitted witnessing bullying at schools on campus, and only about 30% of victims report incidents. So there's something to look at here. You have adults that are watching it, and as a matter of fact, even children, about 70% admit to also witnessing it, but there's only 30% of incidents being reported. There's a problem there. That tells us that not enough people are standing up for other people. You always hear that, see something, say something. So if you see something, please say something. If you see something, try to stop the problem. Of course, I'm not telling you to go and put yourself in harm's way if you think that that's what's going to happen, but you can definitely do something to stop it. I've mentioned in the past how, different ways that you can do it without creating the incident, from blowing out of proportion. But more on that later. What I want to focus on right now is just your awareness. While there have been many steps throughout the country with anti-bullying laws, there's still not enough. There's so many different types of bullying incidents and social media trends that contribute to this issue. So we need to be careful about what our kids are consuming and how they're behaving online. And of course, check yourself too, because you're a role model. A lot of people don't realize that their comments are behaviors of bullying. They think, oh no, I'm just responding to that, I'm defending my friend, or I'm just standing my ground, I'm sticking to my convictions. And there's a way to do that. So go back through your comments and, make sure that they're appropriate. You can always, debate something in a very amicable way, without offending and becoming a cyberbullying or adding to a cyber attack online. So according to the Association of American University Scholars, who conduct research about bullying and how much money it costs our economy and our schools, they're seeing that bullying is a huge social problem that creates an unhealthy climate for individuals, but it also undermines schools and communities. Let me repeat that again. It also undermines schools and communities, and that is a huge problem. That's an example of, it's not just about the victim, it's about the community. Before the pandemic, approximately 160,000 children missed school due to bullying, right? That's a large number, and that's every single day, not yearly, every single day. So for some schools, this is a huge financial issue because schools in states like Texas, Arizona, California use a formula known as the average daily attendance to allocate certain school funds. So what does that mean? That means that the less children attend school every day, the less funds they get per day per child. That's why we should also care about, not just for the safety, but also like if you're not keeping your children safe at school, if the schools are not doing enough to keep the children safe, then that's also going to hinder their funding. And you need that funding to provide good resources, right? It's like a vicious cycle because bullying happens, the kid misses school, therefore there's less money for the schools, but you need that money so that you can provide the bullying awareness programs so that kids can continue to go to school. And of course, if no funding is there, then less resources, less likelihood of you solving that problem of bullying at schools. So schools that receive funding based on children's presence rather than on their enrollment are going to have less funds. And this is something that you should care about whether you have a child in school or not. If you have a school within your area, that's going to impact your taxes. It's going to impact the resources available to you, because guess what? These kids, they grow up and they become the next generation of workers. And if you don't have good workers in your area, then that impacts the entire economy, the entire economics in your neighborhood or in your city, right? So from the studies that the Department of Education has done, and the uh, and the Association of American Universities, 10.4% of students reported that they missed at least one day of school in the last month from the day that the survey was conducted. And they missed school supposedly because they were feeling unsafe. So this adds up to about 301,000 students missing school because of feeling unsafe, and that equates to $276 million lost in revenue each year. And that was based off of a California public schools, right? So let's talk about the other issue though, mental health. Did you know that kids involved in bullying incidents are more likely to end up with long-lasting mental issues like depression, anxiety, lack of focus, feeling of worthlessness, and even suicide? You might have heard me say it before, but if you didn't, yeah, this is really true. And let me say, it's not just the victim, it's anybody involved in a bullying incident, because it can be traumatic, especially when it is consistent and it goes on for a very long period of time. And sadly, some of these kids are so tormented about their bullying experience or by their bully that they lose faith in the system, faith in the adults around them, in their parents, and they resort to bullicide, which is a word to describe suicide due to bullying. And to add insult to injury, when this happens, the bullies continue to bully that victim that has passed on. It's just crazy. It's like these kids have no empathy or regard for human life. And we have, a problem, a societal problem, where empathy is just not being taught. And there's so many things that you can blame on this, right? Like so many things that you can blame for this, right? Like maybe it's the media, maybe it's the home life, it could be the school environment, so many things. But guess what? A lot of that is very preventable. It's just taking time to mentor a child or to speak to children more often, to make sure that they're okay, to make sure that we advocate for them. Too many parents and guardians are not educated enough about bullying of any type. And that's why I work with them instead of directly working with the children. The children are receiving some form of education in regards to bullying, especially now, and that's usually covered under the mental health mission that every school has. And if you were wondering, well, who pays for these bullying awareness courses or curriculum? Usually PTO or PTA, the parent teacher association or parent teacher organization at the schools pays for it, which is part of the reason why it's not very consistent, because most of them do not prioritize it as a top one priority. But sometimes it is allocated within the funds that are provided to mental health aid of different types at schools. And usually for bullying awareness or bullying prevention, the money set aside is very, very, very small. To give you an example, one principal told me that his budget was $1,500 a year, a school year. And if you want to keep a consistent monthly or quarterly workshop available to parents or to the kids, it's just not enough, because usually people charge for these, like I charge for these services, because it takes a lot of research and updating of the parents. Like we take the time to read up on the newest laws, not just here in the United States, but elsewhere, so that we can bring these ideas to the school and say, hey, they're trying this out in Switzerland, or they're trying this out in Germany. How about, would you be open to trying that out? This is what it has proven. This here is an option. So, so think about that when you speak with your principals or your administrators or the teachers. Think about the solutions that you can offer. And they don't have to be something that you read or that I provided. It can be something completely new, which is something that's always welcomed at many, many organizations. And don't forget to always ask for some information for the parents, because too many times parents come to me when things have been going on for too long, and they think that they have, done everything to report everything to the school. And when I start asking questions, they realize, oh, the school didn't know about this. There was not enough information that I provided. So it's really important for you to have lots of details. Kids need more parents to be advocates and to be aware about the many ways that bullying happens, especially now, now, because it happens so under the radar. It's not your typical black or blue eye. It's not very blatant and in your face. Sometimes it's very subtle, and it's very, very painful, and it's more emotional and social than anything else. So the best thing that we can do is to educate yourselves so that we can advocate for our children, so that we can help them thrive. Because when children thrive, our future is brighter. Humanity is more loving, and we can create better solutions for other issues that impact us. If you would like to learn how I can help the parent community at your school or your organization, or maybe you want one-on-one parenting and bullying coaching from me, schedule a call with me at calendly.com/Dalitalks/coaching, and let's start working together. That's what I'm here for. I teach from a standpoint of a parent, because I am a parent of 2 teen girls, and I teach from having experience being that advocate. And I was also a child who got bullied growing up. I was also an adult who got bullied in the workforce. So I have different perspectives, and I teach from the heart, but also with a lot of solid sources. I go to reputable organizations that are doing the hard research and that are providing us with, the results, so that we can learn from it, and so that we can apply, some of the solutions depending on our situations, because one solution does not fit all. So make that appointment with me, and I'd love to work with you, and I'd love to help just build a better community in your area. Thanks for watching.